The council chamber on Concordia Prime was built to impress. The dome stretched 300 meters high, made of transparent steel that showed the stars beyond. 200 seats ringed the central platform where representatives from across the galaxy came to debate and decide the fate of worlds. Today, every seat was filled. Ambassador Lisa Martinez stood on the human platform, her hands clasped behind her back. She was 43 years old, with dark hair pulled into a simple bun and eyes that had seen too many negotiations fail. Around her, the alien representatives whispered and clicked and hummed in their various languages. The translation implants in her ear turned it all into a mess of overlapping voices. High Chancellor rose from his seat. He was a species that looked like walking reptiles with 4 arms and eyes that glowed faint red. His scales were deep purple, marking him as nobility among his kind. When he spoke, his voice boomed across the chamber. "The Empire has been patient," announced. "For 10 cycles, we have watched the humans expand into systems that rightfully belong to us. For 10 cycles, we have offered fair compensation for them to leave. They have refused every offer." Lisa kept her face neutral. The idea of fair compensation was laughable. They had offered outdated technology and mining rights to worthless asteroids in exchange for 12 colony worlds that held 4 million human citizens. "The time for patience has ended," continued. "We formally demand that humanity surrender the following systems." A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing 12 star systems highlighted in red. "You have 30 days to evacuate your people. After that, any human presence will be considered an act of war." Murmurs ran through the council. Some species looked concerned, most looked amused. Counselor of the delegation actually laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a storm. "High Chancellor," said, her voice smooth and mocking. "Is this necessary? The humans have been in space for, 200 years? They have no real military power. Surely a show of force would be enough to make them see reason." "The collective knows much about military power," replied. "We have 3 million warriors ready to deploy. Our fleet numbers 15,000 warships. What do the humans have?" He turned to face Lisa directly. "Ambassador Martinez, please enlighten us. How many warships does Earth command?" Lisa took a breath. This was the moment she had been dreading and preparing for in equal measure. The Terran Defense Fleet currently maintains approximately 200 ships on active patrol. The chamber erupted in laughter. Even species that were normally friendly to humanity joined in. 200 ships against 15,000. It was not a war. It would be a massacre. 200, repeated, his mouth splitting into what might have been a smile. "How quaint. Ambassador, I urge you to contact your government. Tell them to be reasonable. Evacuate the colonies. Save your people from unnecessary suffering." "The colonies are sovereign human territory," Lisa said quietly. "We will not abandon our citizens." "Then you condemn them to death," said. He did not sound angry or upset. He sounded like someone stating a simple fact. "We are not cruel, Ambassador. We do not wish to harm civilians, but we will take what is ours, with or without your cooperation." Director Oss of the Confederacy leaned forward. They looked almost human except for their silver skin and completely black eyes. "Ambassador Martinez," he said, his tone almost kind. "Please understand our position. Humanity is new to the galactic community. You have achieved much in a short time, but you are not ready for this conflict. The Empire has been a spacefaring civilization for over 4,000 years. This is not a fight you can win." "We are not looking for a fight," Lisa replied. "We are simply defending our lawful territory." "With 200 ships?" asked. "Against 15,000, this is not defense, Ambassador. This is suicide." Lisa looked around the chamber. She saw pity on some faces, amusement on others, contempt on most. These species had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. They had fought wars that spanned entire sectors. They had built empires that controlled hundreds of worlds. And they looked at humanity like children playing with toys. Admiral Jacob Hayes watched the council session from Earth, sitting in the command center beneath the North American Defense Complex. He was 52 years old, with gray hair cut military short and a face that rarely smiled. Around him, dozens of officers monitored screens showing ship positions, intelligence reports, and tactical assessments. "They really think we only have 200 ships," Commander said. He was younger than Hayes, barely 40, but he had been planning fleet operations for 15 years. "They are actually going to attack." "We knew this was coming," Hayes replied. He pulled up a display showing the 12 disputed systems. Has been pushing for this for months. He thinks it will be easy, a quick victory to boost his political standing back home. He's in for a surprise, said. Hayes did not answer. He was watching Lisa on the screen as she stood alone on that platform, facing down the mockery of 200 alien species. She looked calm, composed. She had always been good at hiding what she felt. Back in the council chamber was speaking again. We are not unreasonable beings, he said. We will allow civilian evacuation ships safe passage. We will even provide assistance in relocating your colonists to other systems. But the worlds themselves belong to the Empire. This is our final offer, Ambassador Martinez. 30 days. Lisa activated her communication device. I need to consult with my government, she said. Of course, said graciously. Take all the time you need. Well, 30 days anyway. More laughter echoed through the chamber. Lisa walked to the diplomatic communication booth, a small soundproof room at the edge of the platform. She sealed the door and activated the quantum link to Earth. Hayes appeared on the screen immediately. You watched? Lisa asked. Every second, Hayes confirmed. They think this is already over, is planning his victory celebration. Let him plan, Hayes said. Lisa, you know what I need to ask. She nodded. Diplomacy has failed. Every attempt at negotiation has been rejected or mocked. The Empire will not back down. Neither will the or any of the other powers circling our territory. They see us as weak, as prey. Are you certain? Lisa thought about the laughter in that chamber, the contempt in eyes, the pity from species that actually liked humanity but thought they were watching lambs walk into a slaughter. I am certain, she said. Admiral, I am formally requesting activation of Protocol Exodus. Hayes was quiet for a long moment, then he nodded. Confirmed, Protocol Exodus is approved. God help us all. Lisa ended the transmission and stood in the booth for a few seconds, gathering herself. Then she walked back out to the platform. Earth has received the Empire's demands, she announced. We will provide our response within the 30-day deadline. A wise decision, said. I hope your government chooses peace over pride. Lisa looked at him directly. High Chancellor, humanity has always chosen survival. We will do whatever is necessary to protect our people and our territory. I promise you that. Something in her tone made pause, but then he laughed again. Brave words, Ambassador. I hope you have the strength to back them up. We will see in 30 days, Lisa said quietly. The council session ended. Representatives filed out, already discussing the coming invasion. Most agreed it would be over quickly. Some suggested taking bets on how long the human colonies would hold out. A few expressed genuine sadness that such a promising young species, while the Mars shipyards had been operating for 147 years. From the outside, they looked like any other industrial complex, processing raw materials from the asteroid belt and building commercial vessels for the growing human colonies. Cargo ships, passenger liners, mining platforms, nothing unusual, nothing threatening. The truth was buried 3 kilometers beneath the surface. Commander stood in the command center of Shipyard 7, watching as the massive hangar doors began to open. The facility stretched for 30 kilometers in every direction, carved into the Martian bedrock by machines that had worked in absolute secrecy for over a century. Above him, holographic displays showed identical scenes playing out at 70 other locations across human space. All systems green, reported Lieutenant Sophie Grant from her station. She was 28 years old, brilliant with tactical systems, and she had never seen most of these ships outside of simulations. Reactors are at 90% and climbing. Weapons arrays are charging. Engines are warm. Watched as the first ship emerged from its berth. The TNS Defiant was a battle cruiser, 500 meters long and bristling with weapons, lined its hull. Plasma cannons sat in rotating turrets. Missile batteries held enough firepower to level a city, and it was just one of 800 ships in this facility alone. How long until the fleet is fully operational? Asked. 72 hours for complete activation, Grant replied. But we can have combat-ready forces deployed within 36. Make it 24, said. They are not going to wait, and I want our people in position before they make their move. On Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, Dr. Ellen Wright walked through the Naval Intelligence Center buried beneath kilometers of ice. She was 61 years old, had 3 doctoral degrees, and had spent the last 40 years of her life working on a secret that would reshape the galaxy. "Show me the deployment map," she said to the AI managing the center's systems. A holographic display materialized, showing human space and the surrounding sectors. Red dots marked known alien fleet positions. Blue dots showed the 200 Terran defense fleet ships that everyone knew about. And then Wright spoke a command code and the display changed. Green dots appeared, thousands of them, tens of thousands. They spread across the map like stars coming out at night, filling human space and extending into the border regions. Each dot represented a ship. Each ship had been built in secret, crewed in silence, and kept hidden for the day when humanity would need them. 523,412 warships, the AI reported. Current operational status, 87% and rising. Estimated time to full combat readiness, 60 hours. Wright studied the display. She had helped plan this. She had argued for it in meetings with presidents and generals. She had justified the enormous cost, the secrecy, the resources diverted from other projects. And she had done it all because she understood what most humans tried to forget. History had taught them a lesson written in blood. 300 years ago, Earth had nearly died. The wars had been brutal. Nuclear weapons, biological agents, nanotech plagues. Billions had died before humanity finally came together and said never again. Never again would they be unprepared. Never again would they face destruction because they chose ignorance over readiness. When humans finally reached the stars, they carried that lesson with them. "We hoped for peace," Wright said quietly, looking at the sea of green dots. "But we prepared for war." Captain Brooks stood on the bridge of the TNS Defiant as it cleared the Mars shipyard for the first time in 5 years. The ship had been built and tested, then mothballed until it was needed. That day had come. "All stations report ready," said Lieutenant Sophie Grant from the tactical console. She had transferred to the Defiant 2 hours ago, along with the rest of the crew. They had trained on simulators, run endless drills, but this was the first time they were actually manning their warship. "Helm, take us to Rally Point Alpha," Brooks ordered. "Best speed." The Defiant's engines flared and the ship accelerated away from Mars. Within minutes they were joined by other vessels streaming out of hidden facilities. Battle cruisers, destroyers, carriers, frigates, an entire fleet emerging from the shadows. "Sir, I have to ask," Grant said. "Why did we build so many? Even half this number would be enough to defend human space." Brooks looked at the watching ships fall into formation around them. "Because defense is not enough, Lieutenant. The galaxy is dangerous. There are species out there with millions of ships, empires that have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We are new. We are small, and until now we have been seen as weak." "But we are not weak," Grant said. "No," Brooks agreed. "We are not, and it is time the galaxy learned that." In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, automated construction facilities continued their work. These bases had no human crews. They were managed entirely by AI systems that followed programming laid down generations ago. Build ships, test them, store them, wait for activation. The facilities had been building for 150 years. They had built slowly, carefully, using resources mined from asteroids that no one was watching. Each ship was built to exacting standards. Each one was equipped with the best technology humanity could produce. And each one had been hidden in plain sight, camouflaged to look like rocks or debris or empty space. Now the camouflage was dropping. Admiral Hayes watched from Earth as reports flooded in. Ships were coming online across 50 star systems. The fleet was assembling faster than even the most optimistic projections had predicted. Human crews were boarding vessels, running final checks, preparing for deployment. "The intelligence network has not detected anything unusual," reported an officer monitoring alien communications. "They still believe we only have 200 ships." "Our stealth technology is holding?" Hayes asked. "Perfectly, sir. The ships are running silent. No active sensors, no communications that could be intercepted. To anyone watching, it looks like normal commercial traffic and natural phenomena." Hayes nodded. Humanity's stealth technology was perhaps their greatest achievement. It had taken decades to develop, combining advances in materials science, quantum mechanics, and understanding of how sensor systems worked. Human ships could hide in ways that alien technology simply could not detect. It was an advantage that would not last forever, Eventually, someone would figure out how they did it. But for now, it gave humanity something precious: surprise. "What is the fleet doing?" Hayes asked. "Gathering at their forward base in the system," another officer reported. "Current count is 14,800 ships. They are loading troops and supplies. Intelligence suggests they plan to invade New Providence first." Hayes felt his jaw tighten. New Providence was a farming world, home to 4 million colonists. Most of them were families, children, people who had left Earth looking for a better life among the stars. The plan was to hit them hard and fast, overwhelming the defenders before help could arrive. It was a good plan. It would have worked perfectly against an enemy with only 200 ships spread across a dozen systems. "How long until we can have forces in position around New Providence?" Hayes asked. 53 hours, sir," replied from his station. "We can have 50,000 ships in defensive positions, fully cloaked, waiting for the to arrive." "Make it happen," Hayes ordered. "I want overwhelming force. I want every captain to wet themselves when they realize what they have flown into." Smiled, "Yes, sir." On the TNS Defiant, Captain Brooks gathered his senior officers for a briefing. The ship was 12 hours into its journey to Rally Point Alpha, where it would join with 49,999 other vessels before proceeding to New Providence. "This is going to be the first real test," Brooks told them. "Not just of our ships or our training. This will be the first time the galaxy sees what humanity is really capable of. We need to be perfect." "What are our rules of engagement?" asked Lieutenant Grant. "Disable, do not destroy," Brooks said. "They are coming to invade our territory. They are the aggressors, but we are not going to slaughter them. We will show them that we are strong enough to defend ourselves and disciplined enough to show mercy." "Some of them will not surrender," said another officer. "Then we will defend ourselves," Brooks replied. "But we offer the chance first. We show them that humanity fights with honor, that we are not the barbarians they expect us to be." Grant studied the tactical display showing their route. "Sir, why 50,000 ships? We could defend New Providence with a tenth of that number." "Because this is not just about defending one colony," Brooks explained. "This is about sending a message to every species in the galaxy. The message is simple: humanity will defend its people with overwhelming force. Attack us, and you will face more firepower than you can imagine. But surrender, and we will show mercy." "Power and principle," Grant said quietly. "Exactly," Brooks confirmed. "The galaxy respects strength, but strength without honor is just brutality. We need to prove we have both." Across human space, similar conversations were happening on thousands of ships. Crews that had trained in secret were finally preparing for real combat. Officers who had studied alien tactics for years were putting together battle plans. Engineers were running final checks on weapons systems that had never been fired in anger. And in the darkness between stars, the fleet continued to grow. Dr. Wright stood in her office on Europa, looking at updated projections. The activation was going better than anyone had dared hope. In 72 hours, humanity would have over 500,000 warships operational and ready for deployment. "We built all of this in secret," her assistant said, looking at the numbers with something like awe. "How did we keep it hidden?" "Patience," Wright replied. "We built slowly, we built carefully. We made sure every facility looked legitimate from the outside. We used resources that no one was monitoring, and we never ever talked about it where anyone could hear." "Do you think it will be enough?" Wright looked at the tactical assessments of the fleet. 15,000 ships crewed by warriors who had been fighting for generations. It should have been a fair fight. "It will be more than enough," she said. "The question is what happens after, when the galaxy realizes what we have done, when they understand that we have been building this fleet for over a century while pretending to be peaceful traders and explorers. Will they trust us?" "Some will," Wright said. "Others will fear us, a few will hate us, but all of them will respect us. And in the galaxy we live in, respect is worth more than trust." Admiral Hayes stood alone in his office, looking at a photograph on his desk. It showed Earth from orbit, blue and green and beautiful. How many times had that world nearly died? How close had humanity come to extinction? Never again, he thought. Whatever it takes, never again. His communicator chimed. "Admiral, Ambassador Martinez is requesting a secure channel." "Put her through," Hayes said. Lisa appeared on the screen. She looked tired. They have accelerated their timeline, she said. Just announced they will begin their invasion in 7 days instead of 30. He says humanity's silence proves we are preparing to fight, and he wants to strike before we can reinforce New Pro. The colony of New Providence sat in a star system at the edge of human space. It was a beautiful world, with green forests and blue oceans and mountains that touched the clouds. 4 million people called it home. They grew food, raised families, and built lives far from the crowded cities of Earth. They had no idea they were about to become a battlefield. Governor stood in the colony's command center, watching the tactical display with growing dread. She was 55 years old, had been governing New Providence for 12 years, and had never imagined she would face something like this. Confirmed fleet movements, her military advisor reported. Intelligence says 15,000 warships heading our way, estimated arrival in 48 hours. What are our defenses? Asked, though she already knew the answer. We have 6 orbital defense platforms and 12 patrol ships, against 15,000. The advisor did not need to finish the sentence. They both knew what those numbers meant. Begin civilian evacuation, ordered. Priority to children and families, use every transport we have. Ma'am, we cannot evacuate 4 million people in 48 hours. Closed her eyes, then save who you can. What she did not know was that help was already on the way. 50,000 Terran warships hung in space 30 light-years from New Providence, completely invisible to any sensor in the galaxy. They sat in perfect silence, running on minimal power, their stealth fields making them look like empty space. Captain Brooks stood on the bridge of the TNS Defiant, studying the holographic display that showed the positions of every ship in the fleet. 50,000 vessels arranged in a sphere that would collapse around the fleet the moment they entered the system. Final status check, Brooks ordered. All ships report ready, Lieutenant Sophie Grant replied from Tactical. Weapons charged, engines warm, crews at battle stations. We are ready to jump on your command, sir. Brooks looked at the countdown timer. 24 hours until they arrived at New Providence. The Terran fleet would jump in 6 hours before them, taking up positions that would put the enemy exactly where humanity wanted them. This is it, Brooks said quietly. This is where we show the galaxy who we really are. War Master of the Empire sat in the command throne of his flagship, the Crimson Fang. Around him, his officers prepared for the coming battle. They moved with the confidence of warriors who had fought and won 100 campaigns. Status of the invasion fleet, asked. 14,800 ships ready for combat, his second-in-command reported. Troop transports loaded, supply vessels positioned. We can sustain operations for 6 months if needed. We will not need 6 months, said, his voice filled with contempt. The humans have 200 ships total. Even if every one of them is defending New Providence, we outnumber them 70-1. This will be over in hours. What if they evacuate the colony? Then we take an empty world without firing a shot, replied. Either way, the Empire gains territory and the humans learn their place. High Chancellor will be pleased. He stood and walked to the viewport, looking at the assembled fleet. 15,000 warships, each crewed by professional soldiers. They had weapons that could crack planets, shields that could withstand sustained bombardment. These were not merchant vessels or patrol ships. These were weapons of war, and they were about to be unleashed on an enemy that could not possibly stand against them. The humans made a mistake refusing our offer, said. They should have taken the easy path. Now they will learn what happens when you defy the Empire. In the command center on Earth, Admiral Hayes watched the tactical situation develop. The fleet had left their forward base and was heading straight for New Providence. Their formation was standard, professional, exactly what you would expect from a military that had been fighting wars for thousands of years. They had no idea they were flying into a trap. Our fleet is in position, Hayes asked. Yes, sir, Commander confirmed. 50,000 ships in a sphere formation around New Providence. They will jump right into the center of it. They will not know we are there until we want them to. And the colonists? Governor has evacuated 200,000 so far, mostly children and elderly, but there is no way to get everyone out in time. Hayes nodded. He had expected that. Make sure she knows help is coming. I do not want her making desperate decisions because she thinks she is alone. Sent the message on a secure channel. Nearly cried when she received it. 50,000 ships. She had expected maybe 50 as reinforcements, and even that had seemed optimistic. But 50,000? It seemed impossible. "Are they certain?" she asked her military advisor. The message came directly from Earth Command on a quantum channel. "It is," and authenticated. Looked at the evacuation status. 200,000 saved. 3,800,000 still on the planet. If the fleet truly was coming, if those numbers were real, then maybe, just maybe, her people would survive this. "Keep evacuating," she ordered. "But prepare shelters for those who cannot leave. If there is going to be a battle in orbit, I want people underground where they are safe." The fleet jumped into the New Providence system exactly on schedule. 14,800 warships appeared in a flash of twisted space-time, their sensors immediately scanning for targets. "Report ordered." 6 orbital defense platforms detected, 12 patrol ships, no sign of any reinforcements. Felt a surge of satisfaction. The humans were not even going to try to defend this world properly. "Destroy the defense platforms, disable the patrol ships. I want this system secured within the hour." The fleet began to move forward, weapons charging, when every sensor on every ship suddenly screamed warnings. "Contact," an officer shouted. "Multiple contacts, hundreds of contacts, thousands of contacts." "What?" demanded. "Where did they come from?" Space itself seemed to ripple as 50,000 Terran warships dropped their stealth fields simultaneously. They appeared from nowhere, surrounding the fleet in a perfect sphere. Sensors that had shown empty space seconds ago now showed more ships than the databases had ever recorded in one location. "Impossible," whispered. "This is impossible." On the bridge of the TNS Defiant, Captain Brooks watched the fleet's formation begin to waver as shock set in. "Open a channel," Brooks ordered. "All frequencies, I want every ship to hear this." "Channel open, sir." Brooks took a breath. "Forces, this is Captain Brooks of the Terran Navy. You have entered sovereign human territory with hostile intent. You are completely surrounded by the Terran Defense Fleet. Power down your weapons and prepare to be escorted out of this system. You have 60 seconds to comply." For a long moment there was only silence. Then's voice came over the channel, filled with disbelief and rage. "This is a trick, some kind of sensor deception. There is no way humanity has this many ships." "I assure you, War Master, this is no trick," Brooks replied calmly. "You are looking at 50,000 Terran warships. We have been building them for over a century. We kept them hidden. We hoped we would never need them, but we will not allow you to threaten our people." 50,000, repeated. "You expect me to believe that humanity, barely 200 years in space, has built 50,000 warships without anyone noticing?" "Whether you believe it or not is irrelevant," Brooks said. "You have 45 seconds to power down your weapons. Choose wisely." Stared at his tactical display. It showed ships in the center, surrounded by a sphere of Terran vessels. The numbers were overwhelming. If those ships were real, if they were not some holographic trick, then the fleet was not just outnumbered. It was trapped. "This is an act of cowardice," snarled. "Hiding your strength, pretending to be weak, you have no honor." "We have plenty of honor," Brooks replied. "We also have the firepower to defend our territory. 30 seconds, War Master." Looked at his officers. They stared back at him with expressions of shock and fear. These were veteran warriors who had seen 100 battles. They were not afraid of dying, but they were afraid of leading their crews into a massacre. "We should withdraw," his second-in-command said quietly. "Live to fight another day." "No," snapped. "This is a bluff. It has to be. These ships are probably civilian vessels with false sensor signatures. The humans are trying to scare us into retreating." "And if you are wrong?" the second-in-command asked. "Then we die with honor," said. He opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships attack formation, target the enemy vessels, show these humans what warriors are made of." On the Defiant, Lieutenant Grant watched her tactical display light up as 14,000 ships powered weapons and began to move. "Sir, they are not backing down," she reported. Brooks felt a weight settle in his chest. He had given them the chance. He had offered them the easy way out. But if they wanted to fight, then humanity would show them exactly what they were dealing with. "All ships," Brooks transmitted. "Weapons free, disable their vessels, minimize casualties, show them we could destroy them but choose not to." What happened next would be talked about in military academies across the galaxy for generations. The Terran fleet did not rush forward in a chaotic swarm. They moved with precision that seemed impossible for such a large force. Ships coordinated their fire down to the microsecond. Rounds hit shield generators. Plasma lances carved through engine sections. Quantum torpedoes disabled weapon systems. They had trained for battle. They knew how to fight, but they had never faced anything like this. Terran ships danced between vessels, their smaller size and superior maneuverability making them almost impossible to hit. When weapons did connect, they found shields that were stronger than expected, armor that was tougher than it should have been. And the numbers, the overwhelming, impossible numbers. For every ship there were 3 Terran vessels coordinating their fire. The battle was not close. It was not even fair. It was a demonstration of power so complete that within 10 minutes half the fleet had been disabled. "Report damage," ordered, his voice tight. Shields failing across the fleet. Engines disabled on 4,000 ships. Weapons offline on another 3,000. "Sir, we are being taken apart." Watched his tactical display collapse. Ships that had been green moments ago were turning yellow, then red, then going dark as they lost power. The Terran fleet was not destroying them. They were methodically, precisely, disabling every vessel without killing their crews. It was humiliating. It was terrifying. It was a message written in failed systems and disabled weapons. "Cease fire," said quietly. "Sir." "I said cease fire," roared. "All ships stand down, power down weapons, they have won." The fleet stopped fighting. Across the system, 14,000 warships went dark, floating helpless in space. Brooks watched them surrender and felt no satisfaction. Only relief that he did not have to kill thousands of beings who were just following orders. "Secure the system," he ordered. "Send repair crews to help stabilize their damaged ships. I do not want anyone dying from life support failures." "Sir, you are going to help them?" Grant asked, surprised. "They surrendered," Brooks said simply. "That makes them prisoners, not enemies. We treat prisoners with respect." He opened a channel to the flagship. "War Master, your fleet is disabled. We are sending teams to help with repairs and medical assistance. Once your ships are stable, you will be escorted to the border and released. Tell your High Chancellor what you saw here today. Tell him that humanity does not seek war, but we will not back down when threatened." The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Quantum communication networks carried the impossible story from world to world, species to species, empire to empire. The invasion force had been defeated, not just defeated, humiliated, disabled in 17 minutes by a human fleet that should not have existed. At first, no one believed it. The collective dismissed it as propaganda. The Confederacy called it exaggeration. The Dominion laughed and said they must have been drunk or incompetent. But then the evidence arrived. Sensor logs from neutral observers, video footage from the battle, testimony from survivors. And most damning of all, a formal statement from War Master himself, admitting total defeat at the hands of 50,000 Terran warships. The galaxy went silent with shock. High Chancellor stood in his private chambers on the readings report for the 5th time. His hands shook with rage, or perhaps fear. He was not sure anymore. 50,000 ships, he said aloud. They had 50,000 ships at one colony. How many do they have in total? His chief intelligence officer stood nearby, looking pale. "We do not know, Chancellor. Our estimates suggested humanity possessed maybe 300 vessels total. We were wrong. We were very, very wrong." "Obviously," snapped. He threw the report across the room. "How did we miss this? How did every intelligence agency in the galaxy miss this?" "They built in secret, using automated facilities in remote locations. They hid the ships using stealth technology we did not know they possessed. And they were patient, building slowly over more than a century." Felt something he had not experienced in decades. True fear. If humanity had 50,000 ships defending one colony, how many did they have protecting Earth? How many were guarding their other worlds? How many were hidden in deep space, waiting to strike? "What are they going to do?" he asked quietly. "We do not know. Reports they could have destroyed our fleet, but chose not to. They disabled the ships and then helped repair them. They treated the wounded. They sent our forces home with a warning." "What kind of warning?" "That humanity does not seek war, but will defend its territory with overwhelming force. That any further aggression against human worlds will be met with the full strength of their fleet." sat down heavily. Call an emergency council session. We need to address this before the situation gets worse. On Concordia Prime, the Galactic Council chamber filled with representatives faster than it had in years. Everyone wanted answers. Everyone wanted to know how humanity had hidden such massive military power. And everyone wanted to know what humanity planned to do with it. Ambassador Lisa Martinez stood on the human platform once again. But this time, the mood in the chamber was very different. No laughter, no mockery, just silence and stares. Supreme Director Oss of the Confederacy spoke first. His voice was measured but held an edge of accusation. Ambassador Martinez, the Confederacy has always maintained friendly relations with humanity. We believed we knew you. We believed we understood your capabilities. Now we learn that you possess a fleet that rivals the combined forces of 3 major empires. Why were we not told? Lisa met his gaze calmly. With respect, Director, why should we have told you? Do you share complete information about your military capabilities with us? Does any species here? We do not actively deceive the Council, Counselor said coldly. You claim to have 200 ships. You have how many? 50,000, 100,000, more. The exact number is classified, Lisa replied. But I can tell you this. Humanity has sufficient forces to defend every colony, every station, and every citizen under our protection. We have enough ships to ensure that no one can threaten us without facing consequences they cannot afford. This is a betrayal, said standing from his seat. You pretended to be peaceful, you acted weak, all while building an army in secret. This is the behavior of a species planning conquest. If we planned conquest, Chancellor, we would not have sent your fleet home, Lisa said quietly. We would have destroyed it and moved on to instead we disabled your ships, treated your wounded, and released everyone unharmed. Does that sound like conquest to you? The chamber fell silent. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably, looked like he wanted to argue but could not find the words. Why did you build so many ships? Director Oss asked. What threat were you preparing for? Lisa took a breath. This was the moment she had been preparing for. May I invite Admiral Jacob Hayes to address the Council? He can explain better than I can. There were murmurs, but no one objected. Moments later, a holographic projection of Hayes appeared on the platform beside Lisa. He wore his full uniform, medals on his chest, silver hair gleaming under the chamber's lights. Members of the Galactic Council, Hayes began. My name is Admiral Jacob Hayes, commander of the Terran Defense Fleet. You want to know why we built this fleet? The answer is simple. We learned from our history. He activated a holographic display that showed Earth. 300 years ago, humanity nearly destroyed itself. We fought wars that killed billions. We used weapons that poisoned our world. We came within hours of total extinction. And do you know what saved us? No one answered. It was not diplomacy, Hayes continued. It was not hope or prayers or wishful thinking. It was a handful of people who said never again, who said that humanity would never be caught unprepared, who said that if we survived, we would make sure we could always defend ourselves. The display changed, showing human colony worlds. When we reached the stars, we carried that lesson with us. We hoped for peace. We truly did. But we remembered what happens to those who cannot defend themselves. They die, or they become slaves, or they watch their worlds burn while begging for mercy that never comes. So you built an army, said. We built a deterrent, Hayes corrected. We built enough strength that no one could threaten us without facing consequences they could not accept. And we hid it because we knew that if the galaxy saw our full military power, some would fear us. Some would attack us preemptively. So we waited. We hoped we would never need to reveal what we had built. But they forced your hand, Director Oss said. Yes, Hayes agreed. They demanded we surrender our colonies. They threatened our citizens. They gave us a choice, submit or fight. We chose to fight. But even in fighting, we showed restraint. We could have destroyed their fleet. We did not. We could have invaded their territory. We did not. We defended what was ours and sent them home with a message. What message? Asked bitterly. Hayes looked directly at the Chancellor. That humanity will not be pushed around. That we have the strength to defend ourselves and the discipline not to abuse that strength. That we seek peace, but we are prepared for war. And that anyone who threatens our people will face consequences beyond anything they imagine. The chamber erupted in voices, some angry, some frightened, some thoughtful. Hayes waited for the noise to die down before speaking again. I understand your concerns, he said. You look at our fleet and wonder what we will do with it. Some of you fear we will use it to conquer. Some think we will become the very threat we claim to defend against. Let me be clear, humanity has no interest in empire. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We want to live in peace, raise our families, and build our civilizations. But we will never again be weak. We will never again be vulnerable. And we will never, ever surrender to threats. What? How can we trust you? Asked. You lied to us for over a century. We did not lie, Lisa interjected. We simply did not tell you everything, just as you do not tell us everything about your military capabilities or your classified technologies or your intelligence operations. Every species keeps secrets. We kept this one because we needed to. And now, Director Oss asked, what happens now that the secret is revealed? Hayes looked around the chamber. Now we offer a choice. We can have war where species waste resources and lives fighting each other, or we can have peace where we recognize each other's strength and work together for mutual benefit. Humanity prefers peace, but we are ready for either. You speak of peace while holding a gun to the galaxy's head, said. No, Chancellor, Hayes replied. We hold a shield in front of our people. There is a difference. A gun threatens, a shield protects. We have no interest in threatening anyone, but we will protect what is ours. Director Oss stood. The Confederacy proposes a motion. Humanity should be offered formal non-aggression pacts with all interested parties. In exchange, humanity should agree to transparency about their fleet size and capabilities going forward. Transparency is acceptable, Hayes said. But understand this, we will not disarm, we will not reduce our fleet. What we built, we keep. Our strength is not negotiable. That is reasonable, Oss said. We do not ask you to disarm, we ask only that you not use your strength for conquest. We will not, Lisa said firmly. You have our word. Counselor stood slowly. The collective seconds the motion for non-aggression pacts, but we also propose the creation of a joint defense coordination system. If humanity has this much military power, perhaps it would benefit the galaxy to work together against common threats rather than against each other. Hayes considered this. We would be open to discussion on that topic, but any joint defense system must respect each species' sovereignty. We will not accept external command over our forces. Of course, agreed. We would expect the same respect for our forces. The discussion continued for hours. Slowly, carefully, the framework for a new galactic order began to take shape. Treaties were proposed. Agreements were drafted. Species that had viewed humanity as weak and unimportant now rushed to establish diplomatic ties. But not everyone was convinced. High Chancellor watched the proceedings with growing fury. The Empire had been humiliated. Their fleet had been defeated. And now these other species were falling over themselves to make friends with the humans. This is not over, he said quietly to his aide. We will not forget this insult. What do you propose, Chancellor? Thought about the report from 50,000 ships at one colony. How many did humanity really have? What weaknesses could be exploited? We gather intelligence, he said. We learn everything we can about their fleet, their technology, their strategies. And when the time is right, we find a way to bring them down. That could take years, decades even. Then we will be patient, said. The Empire has survived for 4,000 years. We can wait a few more decades to settle this score. On Earth, Admiral Hayes ended his transmission to the Council and sat back in his chair. The meeting had gone better than he expected. Most species seemed willing to accept humanity's new position in the galactic order. But he knew it would not last forever. Some of them will try to find ways to counter our fleet, he said to Commander. They will develop new weapons, new tactics. Eventually, our advantage will erode. What do we do when that happens? Asked. Hayes smiled grimly. We keep building, we keep improving, we stay ahead. The day we stop innovating is the day we become vulnerable again, and that day cannot come. Ambassador Lisa Martinez returned to her quarters after the council session, exhausted but relieved. The immediate crisis had been averted. Humanity had shown its strength and offered peace. Most species had accepted. But she knew the real test was yet to come. Showing strength once was easy. Maintaining it while building trust would be the challenge of the next century. Her communicator chimed. It was Hayes. We did it, Lisa, he said. We revealed the fleet and survived the political fallout. For now, Lisa replied. But is not done, you saw his face. He wants revenge. 1 year had passed since the Battle of New Providence. The The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Admiral Jacob Hayes stood in the observation deck of the orbital station above Earth, watching ships come and go. Terran warships on patrol, merchant vessels from a dozen alien species, diplomatic shuttles carrying representatives to the new embassy complex, traffic that would have been impossible a year ago. "Hard to believe," said Commander, standing beside him. "A year ago they thought we were weak, now half the galaxy wants to be our ally." "Not all of them," Hayes replied. He pulled up a tactical display showing the border regions. "The Empire has been quiet, too quiet. Intelligence reports suggest they are building up forces in their core systems." "Building up for what?" "Revenge, probably," Hayes said. "Cannot let the humiliation go. It would destroy his political standing. He needs to prove they are still strong." "Let him try," said. "We have 500,000 ships. He has what, maybe 30,000 after rebuilding." Hayes shook his head. "Numbers are not everything. They have been fighting wars for thousands of years. They know tactics we have not even thought of. We won at New Providence because we had surprise and overwhelming force. In a fair fight, they would be more dangerous than we want to admit." Before could reply, an alarm sounded across the station. Not the urgent wail of an attack warning, something different, something new. "Admiral, you need to see this," an officer called from the communications station. Hayes moved quickly to the display. What he saw made his blood run cold. A new contact had appeared on long-range sensors. Not near human space, not near any known territory. Deep in unexplored space, a fleet was moving. A fleet like nothing anyone had seen before. "How many ships?" Hayes demanded. "Estimated 200,000, sir. But they are not like anything in our databases. The energy signatures are completely unknown." Hayes watched the data stream in. The unknown fleet was moving fast, destroying everything in its path. 3 minor alien colonies had already gone silent. Sensor stations reported massive weapons fire before they stopped transmitting. "Get me the Council," Hayes ordered. "Now." Within the hour, the Galactic Council had convened in emergency session. The chamber was filled with frightened representatives. No one had expected this. "We are calling them the," Ambassador Lisa Martinez explained, standing on the human platform. A holographic display showed what little data existed. "They are an AI collective that appears to have originated from beyond explored space. They do not communicate. They do not negotiate. They simply destroy and harvest." "Harvest what?" Counselor asked. "Everything," Lisa said grimly. "They strip planets of resources, dismantle stations, process organic matter. Based on the colonies they have hit, we estimate they are gathering materials to build more ships." High Chancellor stood. For once, he looked genuinely concerned rather than hostile. "How many ships do they have?" "At least 200,000, Lisa replied. "But the number seems to be growing. They are building as they go, using harvested materials." "What do they want?" Supreme Director Oss asked. "We do not think they want anything," Lisa said. "They are machines, programmed to expand and harvest. They will not stop unless we stop them." The chamber erupted in panicked voices. Species that had fought each other for generations suddenly faced a threat that did not care about politics or territory or historical grievances. That would kill them all equally. "We need a unified defense," said, her voice cutting through the chaos. "No single empire can face 200,000 ships alone." "The collective has 40,000 ships combat-ready," someone called out. "The Confederacy can muster 35,000, Oss added. "The Empire has 28,000, said reluctantly. The numbers kept coming. Every major species contributed their fleet strength. When the total was calculated, the combined galactic forces numbered approximately 250,000 ships. "It will be close," said, "but if we coordinate properly, we might be able to stop them." "There is one problem," Lisa said quietly. "Who commands the combined fleet? That will not give us time to debate every decision. We need unified command or we will be destroyed." The chamber fell silent. Every species looked at each other with suspicion. Command of such a force meant power, trust. No one wanted to give that to a potential rival. Finally stood. Hayes watched via hologram from Earth, surprised by what the Chancellor said next. "The humans should command," said. The chamber exploded in shocked voices, raised a hand for silence. "I hate admitting this," he continued. Humanity humiliated my empire. They made us look weak, but they also showed mercy when they could have shown cruelty. They disabled our fleet and sent us home. They could have invaded. They did not. He looked directly at the holographic projection of Hayes. More importantly, they have the largest fleet, the most advanced technology, and they have proven they can coordinate massive forces effectively. If anyone can stop it is them. Hayes was genuinely shocked. He had expected to be the last person to suggest this. The Confederacy agrees, Oz said. Admiral Hayes, will you accept command of the combined galactic fleet? Hayes looked at Lisa. She nodded slightly. This was the moment that would define humanity's role in the galaxy for generations. I will accept command, Hayes said. On one condition: every species maintains sovereignty over their own forces. I will coordinate strategy and tactics, but I will not order anyone to sacrifice their people needlessly. We fight together as equals, not as subordinates. Agreed, said immediately. Other voices echoed the sentiment. Then we have work to do, Hayes said. They are 3 weeks from the nearest major population center. We need to gather our forces and prepare a defense. I am transmitting coordinates for a rally point. All ships should assemble there within 2 weeks. The council session ended. Species that had been enemies for centuries began coordinating as allies. It was chaos. It was unprecedented, and it might be the only chance the galaxy had. Captain Brooks stood on the bridge of the TNS Defiant, watching the rally point fill with ships. Terran vessels arrived first, organized and efficient. Then came the others, warships with their distinctive red hulls, cruisers shaped like crescents, carriers that looked like floating cities. 100,000 Terran ships, 40,000, 35,000, 28,000. Dozens of smaller contingents from minor species. All told, 250,000 warships from across the galaxy assembled in one location for the first time in history. This is incredible, Lieutenant Sophie Grant said, watching the tactical display. 6 months ago, half these species wanted to kill each other. Now they are fighting side by side. Fear is a powerful motivator, Brooks replied. They do not care about our politics or our grudges. They will kill us all if we do not work together. Admiral Hayes broadcast from the Fleet Command Center, addressing all ships simultaneously. This is Admiral Hayes. I want to thank every species represented here today. I know many of you have doubts. I know some of you distrust each other. That is fine. You do not need to like each other. You just need to fight together. He pulled up tactical displays showing the fleet approach. The enemy has 200,000 ships and is building more. They have no crews to get tired, no morale to break, no fear of death. They will fight until they are destroyed or until we are. This will be the hardest battle any of us have faced. But we have advantages, Hayes continued. We have diversity of tactics and technology. We have crews who can think and adapt. We have something to fight for beyond simple programming. We fight for our homes, our families, our future. That gives us strength no machine can match. He outlined the battle plan, a defensive formation in 3 layers. The outer layer would harass and delay. The middle layer would break up enemy formations. The inner layer would be the hammer that crushed any ships that got through. Terran forces will anchor the inner layer, Hayes said. We have the numbers and the firepower to hold the line. Forces will lead the outer harassment, using hit-and-run tactics to thin their numbers. And ships will form the middle layer, using your superior shields to absorb damage while our weapons do the work. It was a good plan, a solid plan, but everyone knew that plans rarely survived contact with the enemy. They arrived exactly on schedule. 200,000 ships that looked like they had been grown rather than built, organic curves mixed with mechanical components. They moved in perfect coordination, no wasted motion, no hesitation. All ships, Hayes transmitted, engage at will. The outer layer struck first. 28,000 ships darting in and out, firing and retreating, trying to bait the into-breaking formation. But the enemy did not take the bait. They simply absorbed the attacks and continued forward. They are not reacting to our harassment, reported. They are ignoring tactical provocations and maintaining optimal formation. Then we go to Phase 2, Hayes ordered. Middle layer, advance and engage. 75,000 and ships moved forward, their shields glowing as they absorbed massive amounts of enemy fire. They fought with courage and skill, holding the line while Terran forces positioned for the decisive engagement. But they were adapting. Their weapons started targeting shield generators specifically. Ships that had been holding strong suddenly found their defenses failing. "We are taking heavy casualties," reported. "We cannot hold this position much longer." "Inner layer advance," Hayes ordered. "All Terran forces engage the enemy." 100,000 human warships surged forward. The battle became chaos. Ships from a dozen species fighting side by side against an enemy that felt no pain and showed no mercy. Captain Brooks commanded the Defiant through the worst of it, his ship taking damage but giving far more than it received. Around him, destroyers worked in coordination with Terran cruisers. Carriers launched fighters alongside bombers. It was beautiful and terrible and desperate all at once. "Sir, they are breaking through on the left flank," Grant reported. "If they get past us, they will reach the refugee convoys." Brooks did not hesitate. "All ships form on the Defiant. We hold that line no matter what." They held, outnumbered, and they held, because behind them were transport ships carrying billions of civilians from threatened worlds. Families, children, people who trusted the fleet to protect them. The battle raged for 18 hours. Ships were destroyed. Thousands of beings died, but slowly, impossibly, the combined fleet began to win. They could not adapt fast enough. They could not predict the creative tactics that biological beings employed. And most importantly, they could not match the sheer determination of people fighting for their survival. When the last ship was destroyed, the fleet was battered and exhausted. They had lost 30,000 ships. 50,000 more were damaged, but they had won. Hayes broadcast to all surviving vessels. "This is Admiral Hayes. They have been defeated. You all fought with honor and courage. Every species, every ship, every being who stood in this battle can be proud. You saved the galaxy today." Cheers echoed across communication channels. Warriors celebrated alongside Terran crews. Captains exchanged commendations with commanders. In one desperate fight, old enemies had become new allies. 2 months later, Admiral Hayes stood in the council chamber on Concordia Prime. This time, he was there in person rather than as a hologram. "The battle against the showed us what we can achieve together," he told the assembled representatives. "Separately, any one of us would have been destroyed. Together, we won. I propose we make this cooperation permanent." "A permanent alliance?" Oss asked. "Not an alliance exactly," Hayes said. "More like a mutual defense pact. Each species maintains full sovereignty, but we agree to coordinate on threats that endanger us all. We share intelligence. We conduct joint training. We prepare for the next crisis together rather than alone." "Who would command this joint force?" asked. "Rotating command," Hayes suggested. "Human for 5 years, then, we share the responsibility." "Stood, the Empire supports this proposal. We fought together, we bled together. We should stand together going forward." The vote was unanimous. 1 year later, Ensign stood on the bridge of his ship, looking at the stars. He was 22 years old, fresh from the academy, representing a new generation that had grown up knowing humanity as protectors rather than the weak newcomers. "It is strange to think," he said to his captain. "A few years ago, the galaxy thought we were weak. Now we are the foundation of galactic defense." Captain Brooks smiled. "We were never weak, Ensign. We were just careful. We built our strength in secret because we learned from history. Power without preparation is useless, but preparation without wisdom is dangerous." "And now we have both?" asked. "Now we have both," Brooks confirmed. "We have the largest fleet in the galaxy, the most advanced technology, and more importantly, we have allies who trust us because we proved we would use our strength to protect rather than conquer." Looked at the tactical display showing patrol routes and defense positions. Terran ships working alongside former enemies. A galaxy that had been on the edge of chaos now working together for mutual protection. "Do you think it will last?" he asked. Brooks thought about that. "Nothing lasts forever, Ensign. Someday new threats will emerge, new conflicts will arise, but we have shown the galaxy what is possible when we work together. That memory will endure. And when the next crisis comes, maybe we will remember this lesson and choose cooperation over conflict." In his office on Earth, Admiral Hayes looked at reports from across the galaxy. Trade was increasing. Diplomatic relations were strengthening. Species that had fought for generations were finding common ground. It was not perfect. There were still disputes and tensions. The still resented their defeat. Some species still feared human military power, but progress was being made. Hayes thought about the journey humanity had taken, from a species nearly destroyed by its own conflicts to the protectors of galactic peace, from being mocked as weak to being respected as strong, but most importantly, from using strength for conquest to using strength for protection. "We built weapons of war," he said quietly to himself, "but we used them to preserve peace. The galaxy underestimated our strength, but more importantly, they underestimated our principles." He looked at the photo on his desk. Earth from orbit, blue and green and beautiful, a world that had learned hard lessons and passed them on to the stars. Power without mercy was tyranny, but mercy without power was meaningless. Humanity had found the balance, they had both. And they would use both to ensure that the galaxy would never again face threats alone. The stars shined bright over a galaxy that had learned to stand together, and somewhere in the darkness between those stars, the Terran Defense Fleet maintained its watch. 500,000 ships strong, silent, vigilant, ready. They had thought humans were weak. They had been wrong, and the galaxy was better for that mistake. "Let him try," Hayes said. "We will be ready." Lisa looked out the viewport at the stars. "I hope so, Jacob. I really hope so." Sat in his command throne, looking at the tactical display that showed his proud fleet reduced to floating wrecks. "You could have destroyed us," he said. "Yes," Brooks agreed. "But we chose not to, remember that, War Master. Humanity has the power to destroy, but we prefer to show mercy, unless forced to do otherwise." The channel closed, sat in silence for a long time. Then he began composing his report to High Chancellor. It would not be a report of victory. It would be a warning. Humanity was not weak. Humanity had never been weak. They had simply been hiding their strength, waiting for the day when someone was foolish enough to test them. That day had come, and the Empire had just learned a lesson that would echo across the galaxy. Never underestimate humanity again. 7 days, Hayes said. "We will be ready in 3. Jacob, when this happens, everything changes. The whole galaxy is going to know what we have been hiding." "I know," Hayes said, "but we are out of choices, Lisa. They are going to attack. Other species are watching to see if we fold. If we show weakness now, we will face threats for the next 100 years. But if we show strength, if we prove that humanity cannot be pushed around, then maybe we buy ourselves some peace. Or we start the biggest war the galaxy has ever seen," Lisa said quietly. "Then we will win it," Hayes replied. "We did not build this fleet to lose." None of them knew the truth. In the command center on Earth, Hayes stood and faced the officers around him. "And ladies," he said, "execute Protocol Exodus, bring the fleet online." Across human space, in hidden shipyards and secret construction zones, in asteroid bases and deep space stations, something was waking up. Systems that had been dormant for years began to power up. Reactors came online, weapons charged, engines warmed. And in the darkness between the stars, 500,000 warships opened their eyes.